And hello, everyone. Jack Chris here with the Now See Here podcast. We are live at CC's Coffee House in Ridgeland, Mississippi, and SettleMyCase.com is upstairs, of course, and here in the boardroom, I guess you could call it, where we take over the place for about for several hours every Wednesday. And as long as we buy something, nobody complains, and we're all right. We're going to take on a pretty serious topic today, but one that is really, I think, necessary to discuss. And some people, or you out there, the audience, may think you know about this, you've heard about it, but really you haven't. And I'm going to introduce my guest, Jason Anderson. For my YouTube audience, he's right here, and Mr. Jody Dice. Gentlemen, two organizations here that we want to discuss, and this topic today deals with child exploitation. Right. And exploitation in general. Sure. You work with kids through Free International and Say Something School Assembly here in Mississippi. First of all, welcome to Now See Here.
Well, thank you for having us. We appreciate you bringing this topic to light on your show.
Jody, let me start with you here on my immediate left. What is your role with both organizations, and how did you get involved with dealing with or helping people recognize the signs of child exploitation, and then, I guess, helping kids get through it?
Well, my main organization I'm with is Free International. We're a national nonprofit NGO that bases out of Las Vegas, Nevada. And so I'm the East Coast regional director. So everything on the east side of the country I kind of run for free. We assist law enforcement with information, helping with investigation of cases, to even recovery and placement of victims in long-term care. With that, I've been with the organization since fall of 2012, full-time since 2014. And now, Say Something School Assemblies, I'm the executive director of that, which is based here in Mississippi, which is just an awareness piece that we kind of pull alongside with Free International.
Now, was your background in law enforcement? How did you get involved with Free International to begin with?
Accidental.
Really?
Yeah, actually, I was in Meridian, that's where I'm from originally, and I was in the dental business of all places, but we've been doing school assemblies since 1999. And in fact, April 2nd, 1999, my little sister-in-law was killed in a car accident by a guy high on crystal meth, killed her and two others. And so we just started doing school assemblies about drunk driving, distracted driving, just anything that would, our family was just wanting to take on something that other families wouldn't have to go through what we went through. And through that, we went from just talking heads and on a gym floor to a full multimedia type deal with video screens and sound. And it was in fall of 2012, Free International contacted us because the Super Bowl was coming to New Orleans that following February. And so we went down to New Orleans and kind of met with them and created Say Something Assembly with a few other guys down there. Had no idea what we were getting into. At that point, I had no clue anything about human trafficking. Yeah. I jokingly say I binge watched all 3 Takens to get an education, and then got down there and realized it was nothing like what we were expecting.
And maybe worse than what you expected, unfortunately. And Jason Anderson is here. Now, Jason, I guess your full-time gig is you're owner of Lakeland Glass and Tint. There's more great product placement, and we'll send you the bill for that, don't worry. Right. But what's your involvement here with Jason? How did you two meet, and what's your role with the organization?
Okay, so as far as Say Something School Assemblies is concerned, I'm on the board of directors. I work on the creative side. I'm also a presenter with them as well. I'll tell a little bit about my past and my story along the way. I was a professional musician since 1997, so I use that tool and everything I've learned in that realm to kind of help connect with kids in a way that they can understand and let them realize that kind of what they're going through isn't what they're going to be, because I came from kind of a rough patch, and then use that, turned it around, and now I kind of teach kids that you can be whatever you want to be, type of thing. As far as Free International, I work alongside with Jody, and we do a lot of different things to kind of help inform people, because when you hear the word human trafficking or sex trafficking, it gets really blurred. People, what they think it is not really what it is.
Most people think it's some international thing. There's a sheik, and I'm not trying to be, stereotypical, but that's what we think. They don't think that it's a local business owner.
Right.
Or as I told you guys, I did some research last night that there have been so many arrests here lately of prominent people Of course, the biggest being this Jeffrey Epstein individual in New York, a multi-billionaire who was dealing with kids, girls as young as 14. Give me a definition. What falls under the category of exploitation, and just how bad is it in Mississippi and nationally?
Well, for human trafficking, especially on sex trafficking side, if the victim is over the age of 18, force, fraud, or coercion has to be proven in there. And there's a list of what each one of those things. Force can be any types of threats, actual force rapes, all kinds of aggression that is taken out on the victim to make them do the job or be in the business.
Blackmail.
Well, that goes over into the coercion side of things. And then fraud is promise of things that's never delivered, like travel, money. Even they consider being wooed into a romantic relationship as a way of luring girls out as a part of the fraud side. And the coercion is everything, manipulation, blackmail, and extortion, and all of that. For minors that are trafficked under the age of 18, you don't have to prove any of that. For minors, all you have to do is prove that there was some sort of exchange of value for their exploitation. And so it could be for a hit on a drug or anything like that, if you can prove. So by law, federally and in our state, and most states reflect the federal law, is there is no such thing as a minor prostitute. There are minors that are exploited and prostituted, but according to our laws and statutes, we see it as a minor doesn't make those decisions. Something has coerced them into that. At some point, probably later on in their adult life, they may choose that lifestyle because that's all they've ever known. But if you trace the roots back, you'll find out that there was probably some sort of force, fraud, or coercion.
Well, statistically, what are we looking at here? How big of a problem is it numerically? Do you have, I mean, I know it's hard to gauge, but what has been brought to your attention numerically?
We're an organization that I stand against organizations that use numbers to even re-exploit the issue.
Because one's enough, right?
Yeah, we're all about the one. In fact, we had to come to that point that one is a very big number. To be honest with you, there were probably close to 30,000 cases tried last year in the United States on human trafficking, both sex trafficking and labor trafficking. We do work in both realms. It's not just sex trafficking, but we do work the labor trafficking side of things as well. But the one thing that you will see about it, sex trafficking gets the most traction. That's what all your movies are about. That's what all your TV shows are about. Most people see that. Labor trafficking, you're dealing a lot with undocumented people. And with that, most people kind of throw a blanket over all of that, and they don't understand the whole labor trafficking scheme, that some of the people are here thinking they were coming legitimately, and come to find out it's a forced servanthood or labor type deal where they're paying off a debt type thing to even come into the country. And so when you start looking at the laws on it, and numbers on it, there's no exact numbers. That even goes back to what our prosecutions are. Right now, you can have cases that would be, in most people's size, as a clean-cut human trafficking case, but either DAs or prosecutors bleed down on the case, and when they plead it down, they have, exploitation of a minor or whatever the case may be to win it. So when we say what numbers are, we can't produce exact numbers on it. Well, how bad is it? I always tell people, you give me 48 hours in your city or town, it doesn't matter how small the town, I guarantee you can find it especially if there's a drug crisis there.
Well, let's bring it down to a level where people need to be shot. Mm-hmm. All right, because I met you all here last week through Roddy Merritt, our technical director, and you were telling me about some specific cases that stunned me, and I thought I'd heard a lot of things, heard it all, but what have you dealt with recently that our listeners need to know about to know just how damn serious this is in this state?
There's two very prominent statements that's going to shock and awe people. We have more people in slavery than any other time in the whole existence of the world. And people think that's very odd because they think back of early on slavery. Well, we have more people in slavery today than ever before. Okay? Secondly, human trafficking, sex trafficking there's more money and more involvement in that than drug trafficking. We already know how big of a problem drug trafficking, what kind of money there is in that, right? There's numbers attached to that. Well, sex trafficking, human trafficking blows that out of the water. So those are two very prominent statements that kind of lean you to see how serious this really is.
And we're talking about children as young as
5 years old is the youngest that we found recovering.
And what was the situation there?
Her dad was a drug addict, and he was pimping her out to another guy who was producing child pornography of her and selling it online.
And then, of course, what happens to that child if she lives? Her life is probably
well, some of it depends on the state they're in. In our state right now, the one thing I can say is Speaker of the House Philip Gunn is really working hard on some new legislation that will help with the placement of minors in our state. We don't have a place in the state of Mississippi right now that is specific for a victim of minors that are trafficked. We only have one place in our state that is specific for adults that are trafficked in it, and that's the Tower over in Pearl. And Sandy Middleton and the Center for Violence Prevention has had a vision to take on and run that, and we're excited to be able to partner with them on those things. But the Speaker is wanting to work hand in hand with our state CPS, whatever needs to be revamped or worked in that area, that we actually have homes that are placed for minors. Because right now, a minor in our state that is recovered is placed in the CPS system.
Jason Anderson and Jody Dice are my guests today. We're discussing child trafficking and the sex trade here in Mississippi and nationwide, and it's a difficult subject. But let me ask you, gentlemen, this. Are our law enforcement officials being trained to see signs, and what would an average citizen look for? I mean, Jason, I think you told me, or Jody, one of you told me that every day when we're out grocery shopping
Absolutely.
or taking a walk or whatever, we're passing, probably, statistically, again, passing somebody who has been touched, their lives has been touched by this sick crime. So what are the telltale signs, and are law enforcement people being trained?
In our state, yes, law enforcement are being trained. They're actually getting better trained now. We just had a new appointment at Mississippi Bureau of Investigation as a human trafficking coordinator. Ashley Lucas is the new one for our state, which will then kind of coordinate not only investigation operations, but training operations, especially through Melota, the police academy here. On top of that, we have personally, through Free International, trained we're probably over 5,000 now firefighters in our state and EMS that have been trained what to look for when they're out on calls, because they're in homes, businesses, hotels, things of that nature. And so a lot of our law enforcement are being changed. A lot of them still need to be trained. What a lot of people are not realizing is when we think training law enforcement, we're thinking Jackson, Meridian, Gulf Coast, South Haven, major metropolitan areas, when actually our small police forces in rural Mississippi and rural America need to be trained to look for it, because it's everywhere. It's not just in the metropolitan area.
And could be worse there, I guess, with the drug problems.
Right. Probably so.
If you cut off drugs, would that eliminate a lot of this problem? And then conversely, a lot of people say if you legalize drugs, then that would drive it out of the black market, and it might cut back on this. What are the solutions, in other words?
That's a tough one.
When you figure that one out, it helped me out. Honestly, I don't think doing away with, if drugs were eliminated today, I don't think...
it still exists.
Yeah, the perversion is going to be there. Money gets whatever it wants. I mean... We just seen that in recent cases where billionaires are trafficking young girls. We've seen a case where a 9-year-old girl was trafficked and being prostituted in a makeshift brothel during Super Bowl week one week when we were working that, and a guy just paid $6,000 for an hour with a 9-year-old.
Well, see, we didn't hear about this 20 or 30 years ago. Now, maybe it was a problem, but when I was growing up, I didn't hear about it. But what I'm leading to is now you've got an internet where you can watch whatever you want to, okay? Sure. Child porn or even, regular hardcore porn, and the statistics I've seen say that's where people are going. Sure. People, or everybody, or a lot of people, not everybody, present company excluded, but 80% of the population. Is that part of the problem? That these sickos are seeing this stuff and they want to go out and they'll do anything to get it?
It's a supply and demand. The issue is the Johns, the guys that are out here buying these children. If we could slow that part down, that's where we're going to catch it up. Right now, because if someone wants it, they're going to get it. That's what he's saying, basically, with the money. But when you hear the trafficking, you're thinking of people locked up in the back of a truck or in a warehouse somewhere. It is not that. I mean, some of these kids and women are treated fairly nicely The people are taking care of them. They're buying them clothes. They're feeding them. They're providing them a lifestyle. But in return, they're making them do things they really shouldn't have to.
And child services has nothing to do or doesn't work with you all? I mean, like state agencies?
Yeah, we work with CAC, pretty close child advocacy centers.
So you do. The state is involved on that level.
Sure.
Yeah, and we work very closely within all of our state agencies. That's one thing that we've made a point, that we work closely with law enforcement, with governmental agencies and things, because no one's going to have the answer. The NGOs aren't going to have the solid answers. The government isn't going to have the solid answers. So everyone coming together as a corporate group working together is the only way that you're going to fight this effectively. I would love to say everyone puts out that we can end this in a lifetime, our lifetime, and supposedly so. I'm not that optimistic.
Well, given human nature, maybe not. But
Right.
I want to ask you both this question. What has shocked you the most in dealing with this subject? What one event or tragedy hit you home or hit home?
You can ask them, if my wife was here, you could ask her this. Every time we find a kid under the age of 14 years old, those are the ones that I quit on. Oh, come on, I can't take this more. Because I'm a dad of daughters. I actually have 3 grandkids now. One of those is a little girl. And the younger they are, the worse those get me. The worst part of that is the fact that most of the really young ones are being exploited by family members, familial trafficking, which probably makes up the largest majority of what we're finding associated with the opioid epidemic and methamphetamine epidemic, is that parents are so strung out they're pimping out and selling their own kids. And on the side of that, I'm also a minister. And so, I hate to quote scripture, but I stand on James 1:27, where it says, pure and acceptable religion is taking care of orphans and widows in their distress. And people like to quote that scripture to that point, but they forget there's a second half. And the second half of that scripture says, and not being corrupted by the world in the process. And to me, there's no bigger orphan in the world than a family member that's supposed to be taking care of a kid or a young lady, and you're exploiting them.
And Jason, I want to get your answer, but this also, let's be clear. I'm sure this cuts across racial lines, class lines. It's not the poor, white trash in a trailer park.
Oh, no.
This could be somebody in a very nice, well-to-do, gated neighborhood.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it goes as far as, some of the Russians and stuff like that. I mean, we're talking about high-end call girls that are basically doing this exact thing in an organized sense. So, I mean, we're not just talking about a trailer park per se. I mean, you could go all the way to, some of the big neighborhoods and things like that. It's happening everywhere. But back to your question, I'm a dad of daughters as well.
Yeah.
And for me, it's our responsibility to our families and our children and our community to raise our kids and this, that, and the other. And it blows me away how people will devalue their kids alive for a $20 drug or something. That's what really gets me. It infuriates me. And then you want to react. You want to react and take care of the situation, but you got to take the right path. And it's the awareness is that's what I want to do. I want to make everybody understand what's really happening here.
This is the Now See Here podcast. I'm Jack Chris, and we're joined here in the studio and on YouTube with Mr. Jason Anderson and Jody Dice. Tell me about the young lady when we first met. You told me about a young woman who herself had been through this trauma, but came out on the other side and is working with you now with Say Something and speaking. And we'd love to have her on sometime too, sure. But she's what, 24 now? Did you tell me, or in her 20s?
She's 25.
What was her story?
Her name's
Jody?
Leah Dodrell, and Leah was trafficked in the just outside Laurel area, a little place called Richton area. Leah, it was kind of in a bad situation. Her family she never knew who her dad was. Her mom was a severe drug addict, so she's being raised by a grandmother who has her own issues. Her granddad was an alcoholic, real bad. So she was just in a bad situation from the get-go. Wasn't promised. The fact that she's African American and the rest of her family was white and raised in white. She went to an all-white school, and so she was picked on because of her race, and so she experienced bullying at a very young age. through that found drugs as a way to kind of self-medicate, and the addictions just took over. Family got kicked off of her softball team, just went through all kinds of junk, and wound up the drug dealer was the one who let her come into his house, give her a place to stay, would keep her fixed, but she would have to return and do favors for him to guys that were coming in. And so that stretched out over several years, and finally one night she had a real bad withdrawals, was in severe pain, and needed to go to the hospital. And out of the goodness of God, he just said, "Fine, go." And so she left and never went back. The thing about Leah, though, everything about her case would have been a human trafficking case because she was being exploited. She couldn't freely go. Something happened to her under all three categories: the force, the fraud, and the coercion. And the guy's now since died, so his case could never be prosecuted. But Leah wound up going to Teen Challenge for her drug addictions and has recovered super well. Probably one of the best recoveries I've ever seen. Yeah, she's a really solid young lady. But she always says, and her deal is you passed me in the 3 W's. And the 3 W's were Waffle House, Walgreens, and Walmart. And she said, everyone sees a trafficking victim in Waffle House, and what she's saying, not specifically Waffle House, but 24-hour restaurants, because if they're working all nights, all weekend, they got to ditch in somewhere to grab a place to eat or bite to eat, and so they'll eat there, and most people just see them as hookers, whores, whatever they want to see them, or meth heads or whatever. And so they don't see them as a victim. You're just talking about what are warning signs. Here's this person that's working all hours of the night, multiple hotel room keys or something of that nature. Then she says Walgreens or 24-hour drugstores. Same reason, things that she may need in the business of what's going on. And in Walmart, everyone goes to Walmart at some point or another, and that's what she's talking about. We all bump into someone and you just don't recognize it. And that was hers. No one saw her. In fact, she was more demonized for the drug abuse and the drug addiction that she was in, and didn't see the exploitation as that.
Right. But she's speaking for you now and talking to other young people who've gone through this. Well, before we talk about what actually goes on at the assembly and how people can contact you all, and I guess you go to schools and any organization that
we do.
Let's say I'm in a Walgreens or a Waffle House at midnight or whatever, for whatever reason, and I see something that looks kind of, my antenna goes up. Who do I call? The police?
In our area, I would go ahead and call the police.
And what do you say? You just say, I saw something that looked odd, and try and get a tag number or something?
Well, if they leave, definitely try to get a make and model of the vehicle, tag number. We always say don't approach them.
Yeah.
Don't approach the individual. Everyone has a good heart and thinks these girls are going to just embrace them and want out. Out of over 400 and something recoveries, I've only got my neck hugged probably 3 or 4 times by some of these girls, for helping them. The rest have cussed you out, slapped you, clawed at you, called you everything on some, because it's street rules. They're trying to survive. If that pimp thinks they're flipping on them, it's detrimental to their life. So we said don't approach them. If you're not comfortable with calling 911, or you don't feel like you're in a place that can address that, then call the National Human Trafficking Hotline number, which is 888-3737-888. And they're going to ask you, they'll walk you through the reporting, but they're going to want things, tag numbers, hotel room numbers, addresses, anything, whatever it is that's pertinent to the information that would help the victims. That's what they're going to need. But I would always say your first call should be 911 and say, this is what I see. I see these young ladies and this guy seems controlling. It looks like a trafficking situation. He's making them approach girls. Whatever you're seeing, report it. But I will say, if you mention human trafficking in what you're saying, that seems to get a little quicker response than saying, well, I just saw these prostitutes. And that's just going to sweep in a prostitution type thing.
Well, I lied to you. Before we get into the assembly, let me ask one other question. What average citizens can do? I mean, your minister, you said, is the church getting involved? What can somebody, Jack Chris here, what can I do to help? I mean, contribute money, or what are the churches doing?
We are nonprofits, and the thing about Free International is we're all self-funded. So Free International does not pay any of us a dime to do this. I don't get paid by Free International. I don't get paid by Say Something. Churches, individuals, businesses, they give to us as a donation, as donors. And that's how we're self-funded. So when you pull the 990s on our nonprofits, you see all the money that actually goes to that, goes to the fight, goes to the school assembly, goes to
not administrative overhead.
Exactly. Yeah. and that's another reason the government likes what we do. It's not a money maker for us. Trust me, I left a really good paying job to do this because this was a calling. This was not a money maker. And the other side of that is just what you're doing right now, bringing us in, putting us on your show. That's a huge help, because the more you get the message out, the more that you bring awareness to it. This is my point. Awareness is always better than rescue. Always better.
Well,
if we can save them before they need saving, that's what we want to do.
I didn't know about you until Roddy introduced me.
Sure.
So, and this is how things work. This is how this podcast grows. I meet you, we meet each other, we go on Facebook, we tell everybody about you, and all of a sudden more people know. All right, I know we're running probably a little bit long, but this is important. Tell us about Say Something School Assembly. If people want you to bring a group, or if you all speak, what do they need to do, and what can they expect?
Okay, so it's a multimedia thing, and over the past few years, we've kind of developed into this really interactive thing with the students, the teachers, all the faculty involved. It's not us just coming into an auditorium and then throwing a bunch of information at them. We make it really fun for them. We do the music thing, we do some dances and all this type of stuff to really make it interactive, to open the kids' hearts and minds.
Not a lecture.
Exactly. It's cool. The kids love it, but at the end of the day, they get real world information to help them with what they're dealing with. And a lot of the issues we're talking about: bullying, teen suicide, drug, alcohol abuse, exploitation, being safe online. There's a lot of information that kids need these days that they don't get. And for us, it's about just coming into that school, giving them the tools that they need, and not just the students, but the teachers as well.
And I guarantee you, kids are seeing this stuff. Parents may say, "Oh, no, not my little Johnny or Susie," but if they've got a phone, an iPhone or a computer, they're seeing this stuff. You know it. All right, phone numbers, websites. You do go out to any school that requests you, or church group, I assume, or any kind of a civic group. Yep. How do they get in touch with you all and book you?
You can go to www.saysomethingassembly.com, or you can shoot us an email at info@saysomethingassembly.com. And on the website, there will be a link. If you want to book an assembly or book a speaker, you can click at and go through that. And that's how we just say that's the best way to reach out to us.
And we'll put this on our Facebook pages.
And you can go like the Facebook page, too. A lot of people reach out to us through that.
And share to friends and family members. Again, it's businessmen doing this. Women are doing this.
Yes.
Billionaires are doing this. It's being done all over the place. Are we making any headway? I mean, you save one. You got one soul and one spirit, but are we making any headway?
I believe we are, just for the fact that now it's gaining traction. And you talking about you hadn't heard out of this whenever you were younger. It's been going on. In fact, we have a book. Our founder, Mike Bartell in Las Vegas, he has a book that was published in 1879, I think it was. And it's talking about the new slavery that's coming, and it spells out human trafficking to the letter, the exploitation of women and children for prostitution. And so it was already working through that. It's just now to a point that we're at a place that we're actually saying or doing something about it.
Sure.
And that's a big step right there.
Yes.
It's not taboo, I guess.
Exactly.
You need to talk about it.
And that's the thing. We always tell schools as well, when we're talking about the schools, if we have any pushback, they get nervous about the topic. Why are you coming?
Well, they need to get nervous about the topic, don't they?
We're not sexually explicit. We don't talk about acts. None of our videos are explicit. In fact, they're just informational. We're not there to do sex education. We're there to bring awareness to an issue. And so that's how that is. And so it will never be in that setting. We've spoken to over 400,000 students nationwide in our school assembly program. So that's probably over 30,000 schools that we've been in since we started this.
Good for you. Well, I hope that's a lawnmower out there and we're not about to be plowed under. That's the joy of doing live podcast. I'm Jack Chris. You've been listening to Now See Here. Jason Anderson, Jody Dice, give me contact information one more time.
www.saysomethingAssembly.com or info@saysomethingAssembly.com.
You two are doing great work.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate it. We've only skimmed the surface.
Yes.
I would like to have the young lady on if she's willing to come and talk with us. And, of course, we'll have you on again, too. And here you go. Jason's this is his company, Lakeland Glass and Tin. I keep trying to hit him up for sponsorship, so go by there and tell him we heard it on Now See Here.
There you go.
Fellas, thanks so much.
And if y'all are around August the 17th.
Oh, yeah, the car show. Tell me.
We have a car show on Parkway Road and Spillway Road that is a benefit for Say Something School Assembly. So we're buying new equipment to do more assemblies and travel more places.
Is that at the Word of Life?
River of Life.
River of Life, rather, church, yeah.
River of Life Church on the corner of Parkway Road and Spillway Road.
Yep. So if there's any sponsors out there, donors, it's a tax write-off. We need a little help if we can get it.
Well,
right.
and we'll put that info on the Facebook page, too.
Thank you, sir.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. And this is good work you're doing, and we appreciate it.
Thank you, Jay.
Those of us who have daughters and children at all. It's a tough subject. Folks, thanks so much for watching and listening to Now See Here. I like that, Jason. Wait, give him a thumbs up.
There you go.
We're going to fight this problem. This
right.
is Now See Here, and thanks again to CC's Coffee House, Roddy Merritt, our technician, and SettleMyCase.com, and all of our other sponsors. Take care, and thanks for listening.